evening.
Good evening.
I will call to order the joint Troy City Council and Troy School District special meeting for the September the 29th, 2014. You can have the roll call, Ms. Bittner.
Mayor Slater?
Here.
Councilmember Campbell?
Here.
Councilmember Fleming?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
Councilmember Pennington?
Here.
Councilmember Teets? Mrs. Edmonds?
Here.
Mrs. Fleming?
Here.
Mr. Maletti?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mrs. Philippart?
Here.
Mr. Macheski?
Here.
We will, I got a phone call from Councilman Teets that he would not be able to make it this evening due to being out of the county. So we will deal with his absence at the next council meeting. So we're going to move right straight into discussion items. But first of all, I would like to say that welcome to the school board for the second meeting that I've been involved in. It's always a pleasure to meet with the school board. I think it's utterly important that we communicate and talk because our interests are the same, in my humble opinion. And having said that, I will ask Ms. Philippart if she wants to say a few words, and then we'll move toward our discussion.
Okay, great. Well, I will also echo the sentiment that we're very pleased to have an opportunity to have this joint meeting. We do have many areas of common interest, and I'm sure that we all share mutually in the pride of the city accomplishments and the school district accomplishments, and that's really what I think we all believe makes Troy the exceptional community that it is. And so I'll just mention on behalf of our two members that are were unavailable tonight. As you know, we typically meet on a Tuesday night, and so people have that programmed into their calendars so that our trustee Gary Hoff and trustee Wendy Underwood were not able to make it. And I'm just going to mention up front that because I teach on Monday nights, I'm only going to be able to be here until 6:30, but I do welcome the opportunity to participate in the first half hour of the meeting. So with that, without any further ado, I would like to turn the agenda over to our new superintendent, Dr. Richard Macheski. And I'm just going to take a minute before I turn it over to him to talk about the bond update, just to say how delighted that we are in the district to have Dr. Macheski's leadership. As you know, he was appointed this summer. And, you know, before he was even up to speed, he provided a very complete and aggressive 90-day plan of the things that he was going to do to ensure that he was onboarded in the district, and also to, you know, really make sure that he was on a journey of understanding so that he could do the best job possible. And we've been delighted at what he's been able to accomplish in these few short months. And really, as a testament to that, in front of you, you have our One Troy Cup. You know, he borrowed from the concept from a local area business who was also using this concept of we really are one team, and that when we all work together and have our arrows aligned, the output of what we do is better than the sum of the individual parts. And again, what he and his team, and particularly the staff in the district, have been able to accomplish really with this focus on One Troy has been truly amazing. So please accept those mugs as just a little taste of what's to come. So without further ado, Dr. Macheski.
Dr. Philippart, thank you very much, and again, thanks for having us this evening. It's really a pleasure to be able to be here and share with the rest of the Troy community those good things that are going on within our school district. It's obviously one of the most important things we do is educate our children, and I think we do it, quite frankly, better than anyone. That said, we're also very, very blessed to have a community that supports their schools, and in a particular support of the bond issue, the 2013 bond issue that passed last November. We really wasted no time after passing that bond issue. Dr. Fowler was adamant about the fact that she wanted to make sure that during the summer of 14 that we touched as many buildings as possible to get that bond issue kicked off. We also knew that in taking an aggressive timeline that we would likely not get many of our projects done before the start of the school year. So the superintendent and the board decided that the best thing to do would be to forge ahead, take a chance, and get as much work done as possible. So to that end, we touched every one of our buildings in the district this summer in some manner or another. The only building we only slightly touched was Smith Middle School, and we're actually preparing, there's work actually being done right now in the old locker room there as we prepare to enlarge their gym, actually move some storage. So that's a little bit of work that's been done at Smith, but beyond that, this summer, every one of our elementary schools is being impacted with a secured entrance, and you'll hear from Officer Jasek a little bit later what that means to our school district. But every elementary school will now have a secured entrance where when they come into the building, they will be diverted through the main office so that there's a very clear, there's a clear line of sight from the receptionist/secretary in the main office. So anyone coming to the elementary will be buzzed in and create as safe as school environment as we can for our students and for our school community. That meant quite a bit of work in some buildings. We have 6 elementaries that are scheduled to be done this Wednesday. Really, the work itself is scheduled to be done, and then by the end of the week, they'll be moving in and preparing the office, putting furniture together, moving last-minute furnitures into the office area. And there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done with some casework. We ran into a little bit of problem with some casework issues, but there's a little bit of work to be done in those areas, but that's work that will be done after hours. So we have 6 elementaries. The other 6 elementaries will be done within the next couple of weeks. We have Baker Middle School, the International Academy will both be done by the end of October. We have two other exciting projects that are going on in our middle schools. Both Bolin and Larson, those are sister schools, the same footprint. The office areas currently are in the middle of the building. That's not conducive to creating a secured entrance. So we have a real aggressive plan there. We're actually bumping the front of those buildings out, relocating the main office to the front of the building. So that's a new build out in both of those buildings. We'll be taking the existing office space in those buildings and making what we call large instructional areas, multi-purpose areas, if you will, for students to gather, take advantage of our one-to-one technology initiative as they collaborate in their learning. At the high schools, just to give you an idea, at the high schools, we plan very shortly to begin breaking ground at Troy High on a four classroom addition. That will take until next summer to complete. We anticipate once we get underway that there shouldn't be any problems, but with new construction, you never know. We had to get very aggressive in the bidding of that project. In fact, part of what put us back is we having to go out twice on that project. We had to split some of our bids up on that project because we just weren't getting the competitive pricing that we wanted, competitive bids, excuse me, that we wanted. So that project is getting ready to go. We're actually also doing some work to the main entrance at Troy High as well. That work will be done by the end of October. The other 2 projects that are being done at Troy High that will start very shortly, we're enlarging the theater, the back stage of the theater, adding some new dressing rooms, adding some prop storage space. That's a much needed, as well as storage space for band and orchestra. Those are two very large programs that continue to get larger. So those are that we have to create some space for those folks. And we're also then, the main house at the theater is getting at Troy High is being totally renovated. We'll have brand new seats, the floor will be redone, we're gonna have new carpeting, we're gonna have new aisle lighting, we'll have new curtains. The lights and sound at both Athens and Troy High have been upgraded, and it's just gonna be fabulous. We're really looking forward to adding some new technology as well to the theater at Troy High. So that's gonna look fabulous when it's done. That's scheduled to be done the first week in November. So we're hoping for our holiday concerts that facility will be up and ready to go. So as not to forget Athens High School, we have a very large, what we call a large group instructional space that we're really excited about. It's going to be a multi-purpose kind of a space, state-of-the-art technology. It's actually going to be, for those of you that know Athens or maybe went to Athens, the old auto shop. There are 4 bays of the old auto shop that are being renovated. They're totally gutted right now, that are being renovated. It's going to be a very large and open space. We can seat approximately 100. We'll be able to seat approximately 100 students in tables, traditional tables and chairs. We can clear all those out, and we can seat 200 in that room. We anticipate we don't anticipate that room will also have 2 larger conference spaces as well that are available. And that's a room that we're also going to be suggesting is available for our community to utilize down the road. So we're excited about that. It's a space we don't have available to us at this point. So we're excited about that project. Of course, we have a number of technology projects going on. The most aggressive is our one-to-one project, our 6th grade and 3rd grade one-to-one campaign. That's an iPad in the hand of each 6th grader currently. We had a few stumbles along the way, but we were able to get that program up and running, and our staff is now working with students in the classroom in that technology. We're going to roll the 3rd grade one-to-one initiative out within the next 2 weeks. We're going to take our time on that one, make sure we have some of the technology issues worked out. So that's from a technology standpoint. We also have new, what we call iPad minis for our K through 2nd graders. So in their classroom, there's a 10-pack of iPad minis in each classroom. The idea is that next year we'll add to those so that every student at some point will have access to that during the day. They won't take them home. Our 3rd graders, 6th graders have those available for them to take home. The idea is that beginning next year and then the following year, we will roll in so that at the end of 3 years, we will have, or possibly 2 years, depending upon how this year goes, every 3rd through 8th grader would have an iPad that they have available to them to take home to enhance their instruction, access to information while they're at home. So that's technology. Oh, we did a huge, amount of work in terms of our sites in the parking lots this summer. Martell, Waddles, Was, Barnard, Troy Union, and Morse all have new bus loops, pair drop-offs that were enhanced during the course of this summer. And just a tremendous amount of work, and we have a couple that are scheduled to be done next summer as well. So I probably missed a bunch of them. So I probably missed a bunch of projects, but again, none of that could have been made possible without the various the generosity of the community and recognizing the importance of their students' environment, that whether it be where they sit, the technology they have available to them is obviously a huge commitment on our community's part. So we're really excited about that. So that's our bond construction update.
Thank you.
Questions on that?
Any questions?
Ask probably.
Comments?
Very impressive.
I know Ms. Fleming is fighting a cough, and she's had, yeah.
She had no idea you were doing that much.
She did her best to make sure she waited till you were done. But thank you. Next on the agenda is the enrollment review. So, Doctor, I'll defer to you.
Not near as exciting, the enrollment, not near as exciting, but what I will say is exciting is that last year it was a high watermark for us in the district, 12,591 students last year as of count day. That was the largest enrollment ever, and we have been steadily growing to that point. That last year was about 230 so students above what we had projected. So that was a bit of an anomaly. Nice to have that large amount, but to suggest that we were going to sustain that on a year-over-year basis was not realistic. This past year, so count day is actually Wednesday. That's the first Wednesday in October is count day, so that's the big day in all the schools. That's the day that we take the official count, and then our per pupil allotment, our the number of students who have a foundation allowance that come with them, we will submit that number after an auditing process takes place. As of right now, we're sitting at 12,549 students, so that's 22 students under where we were last year at this time, which is actually pretty good in considering the fact that in late June, early July, we were sitting at about 170 less than we were at that time year over year. So we're thankful to be where we're at. In just polling, though, my colleagues around Troy, most all the districts around us are experiencing a decrease in enrollment. Rochester, Avondale, number of school districts are seeing a drop in enrollment. And that's likely to do with the fact that our incoming kindergarten class at 2008, 2009 year, those students were born. That was, it was kind of the height of the recession at that point. So likely families were potentially holding off on having children, given the uncertainty of the economy. So that probably has something to do with it. We're not certain. We'll find out as we do a little bit more. We do more research into that, and we talk with the individual that does our enrollment projections. We do take live births into account in Oakland County when we look at our enrollments for kindergarten, because that's really the only thing that you have available to you. The fact that we were off by as many as we were is a little disconcerting. We're going to go back, make sure that we take another look at that for next year. But our projection for enrollment over the course of the next 3 years continues to be in a positive trend. Not likely to see those 100-plus gains in enrollment that we had seen a couple of years previous. But for us to know our enrollment on an annual basis, to be able to plan for a steady enrollment count on an annual basis, is what allows us to budget and do the things that we need to do and make sure that our programming remains stable. Our elementary numbers actually went up this year, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. And then our secondary numbers went down a little bit. That's not unusual. You tend to see a little bit more movement in your secondary numbers, and you're not so much at middle school, but when you get to high school, that's when we start to see larger shifts in enrollment. So that's not unusual. So enrollment-wise, we're doing well. We in Troy schools end up most school districts from first count, which is in October, to second count, which is in February. The following February, most school districts tend to lose enrollment. Traditionally in Troy, we tend to gain enrollment during the course of the year, which again speaks to the strength of the community, the fact that people are here to stay, and during the course of the year, we have multiple families that try to find a way to move into the district where it's possible. We also seeing a large number of relocation specialists, for local companies contacting us and are in talks relocating a number of families. So we're having more and more conversations like that. Again, speaks to the strength of our community. So that's something we can all be very proud of.
Any comments about enrollment? I think it's a testament to the school, because we are pretty well built out. It's not like we're building new subdivisions and bringing families in anymore. We have small pockets here and there, but for the school to be that stable, I think every time I go speak somewhere, somebody always speaks about, we came to Troy for the schools, is the number one thing that I hear. I mean, other than city council, they come because of the great city council. But, the schools is always the number one.
Mayor Slater, if there's one more thing I could just add, I would want to make note of our School Life Troy. Many of you may have seen this. This is the second run of this. September was our first run. This is October's edition. This will go home with all students tomorrow. They were delivered today to the schools. They'll go home with all students tomorrow. The idea is that a hard copy is put in the hands of every student to take home. It's about 12 pages or so, and it's totally dedicated to the Troy School District. Thanks to Mr. Schmidt, he brought this idea back from a conference that he was at. We're the second district to have a publication similar to this. Dearborn is actually the first, and the gentleman that did it in Dearborn had a conversation with Mr. Schmidt, and sure enough, he brought it back. We talked about it, and a year later, this is the second iteration. The great thing about this, twofold. Number one, it's all Troy, so it's all our kids, and it's all advertising local to the city. But secondly, and I know important to the voters in our community, those that support our community, it's at no cost to the school district. It's totally no cost. So we get great advertising. Our city gets great advertising. Kids get to see their faces, and it's a win-win. So we're real proud of the publication. We brought enough here for folks to have. this can be found, not only are we giving this to the students, but this can be found in areas around the city. So there's community center, Starbucks, Panera, wherever folks tend to congregate is
Lifetime
where
Fitness, I know, is one
they
carrying.
want to put it. So just another way to support our community and tell those, tell the story of what's going on within the school district. So just wanted to mention that.
Rich, is that a monthly newsletter?
It'll be monthly, yes.
Yeah, I've seen, it's a great publication.
You may have mentioned it, how is it free? Do you have-
Advertising.
It's all,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
done via advertising.
And the reporting is all done outside the district, so there's no staff time on it either. So, I mean, the publisher has the staff, and he makes enough money to publish it and pay his people. But they provide, the school has final review of any edition before it goes out. So we have some control over the messaging as well,
As well as the advertising.
as well as the advertising.
Good. Next is C3, the school liaison officer, and I know from the city council's point of view, this was a very important position to get back into the schools. And, we couldn't be happier from our position to be partners with the schools to get the liaison officers back. And I see Chief Mayor standing at the podium, so I'm going to turn the meeting over to Chief Mayor. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome, everybody. I'm Gary Mayer. I'm the chief of the Troy Police Department. I know many of you. It's always a pleasure to address the Troy School District. Troy PD is very proud of the great relationship we have with the Troy School District. Many of us have worked on it for years, and those who went before us worked on it, so it's a continuing process. We want to keep it up. I have with me tonight Police Officer Gail Jasic, who's our school liaison officer. She's going to briefly go through the school liaison officer program. And then following that is Sergeant Andy Bridnich, who's going to discuss briefly the security enhancements that Dr. Malczewski mentioned. So we'll do that. And then after that's done, we'll gladly take any questions that you may have. Thanks. Gail.
Hello, everyone. My name is Officer Gail Jasic, and I am the School Resource Officer for the Troy Police Department. I've been with the Troy Police Department for just over 5 years, and I've been the School Resource Officer since the position was created a little over a year ago. I think the position has been very beneficial for the people that I've worked with, adults and children. I think it is important, and it's a necessary resource for the community. I also have enjoyed this position thoroughly this far, and I still love working with children. I'm responsible for patrolling 23 public schools, their parking lots, the areas and the neighborhoods that surround them. I'm in a fully marked patrol car and in uniform, and in 3 different locations on my vehicle, the word school resource officer is in decals, just so everyone knows. I also work with the private schools, the daycare centers, and schools that belong to other districts but are in Troy. I work closely with Safe Ed, the security team that's at our high schools, and Troy Youth Assistance by referring families and kids that are having different problems or just for early intervention. Another major responsibility of this position is that I observe and evaluate 3 lockdown drills per school per year. I also closely work with the principals in discussing if there's any room for improvement during these lockdown drills. I wear, as you can see, many different hats as a school resource officer. One is being a teacher or a guest speaker. I support the school procedures, their code of conduct, and their rules, and I have really formed some great working relationships with the school administration and the staff. I also create and give different informational presentations to students, staff, parents, and counselors on different topics. If there's, different topics such as internet safety or cyberbullying, alcohol and drugs, making smart choices, or just good decision making altogether. If a teacher's looking for a specific topic, then I will specifically create a presentation for that topic for their class. I'm also called upon to assist in counseling. I often meet with principals, staff, students, or parents, either individually or combined, to discuss any issues such as behavior problems, or poor decision-making. I've had meetings on bullying or stealing. If the word gun or a threat is made toward maybe a student or a teacher, or if any other weapon for that matter is brought up in a conversation and it's brought to a principal's attention, then I'm usually involved, and I discuss that with the parents and the students to make sure that this doesn't happen again in our school and we don't allow these things to be said. On different occasions, I work with school counselors and social workers if Child Protective Services is ever contacted. And then I'm also still a police officer. I work as a liaison between law enforcement and the schools. I make arrests, I issue citations, I still write police reports for the schools. Maybe there's damage to property or larcenies within a school. I have had, maybe with some of the other districts, the schools that are in, but larcenies of the iPads, a lot of those get stolen maybe by janitors. So with all of that said, my days are very busy and I have a lot of responsibilities, but I really do enjoy, and it's very fulfilling for myself, helping the school community and everyone that's involved in it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us come speak at the joint meeting. We really appreciate the community. And it's the reason why we're the safest community isn't just the police, isn't just city staff, isn't just the schools. It's community, every group. Troy Youth Assistance. We could spend the whole night doing a mutual admiration society. What makes Troy great? And it is great. And, you know, living in Troy personally, having children attend Martell and Smith, I am very appreciative of the bond passing last year. I was vested in it personally, and I was very happy to see the bond passing, and there's some great things that came from that. And there was great things going on in Troy with the schools from the police department perspective before that. But that added a little more security layer. And when I talk about security in the schools, it's never just materials or buildings or relocating things. It's also a human element. And a big part of security posture is having the right human element involved. And we have that in Troy. We have great partnerships. And a big part of that was our partnership with Safe Ed Security, the apparatus for the school district. And we have such a relationship that if something goes on, there's joint communication from both sides of some of the issues. It isn't necessarily just criminal type issues. I'll tell you a big thing that the bond passage helped us out with is relocating the bus stops, the school drop-offs. You know, we would get tied up with so many questions in the past years of all these parent problems and issues with parking. It would draw in police personnel to help solve the problem, because that's what Troy Police does. It isn't just criminal. We try to problem solve in the community. And that went a long way of helping easing up our time commitment so we could spend more time dealing with other issues that go into schools. And there are plenty of issues that aren't necessarily just criminal. So there's been a lot of security changes, and we look for more security changes in the future. But some of them that I could highlight is, obviously you saw the pictures that with Officer Jasek, much more photogenic than myself in these pictures, with the school signage. And not all of it came from a bond. Some of it came from writing grants. Some of it came from, you know, the school district of changing things, adding signs. You saw numbers over the doors. There's one. If you're not aware what that's for, it's to help on a tactical situation or any type of situation, identify certain exits, entrances to and from the building. In a time of stress, it's easier to rely on something you can visibly see than just saying, one door on the southeast corner of this particular school is where we're going to go in, or somebody came out. Those are things that help enhance security for the schools. Increased cameras, those are things that help What's exciting is what we see in the future with these cameras, and with more cameras possibly coming into the schools. There's going to be some integration, most likely with our police dispatch center, where we can have real-time viewing of the schools and any problems in the school from our dispatch center, to the point where it be seamlessly allow officers on the road in protected computer modules to be able to see exactly what's going on in the school as they approach, or when they get to a school. They can view the cameras, which is a great enhancement for the schools. Those are things we look for in the future to help enhance the school. A lot of little things going into it, the day-to-day, having people there, safe and security liaison, talking with the schools, understanding their problems before it becomes a problem in a more criminal manner with Detroit Police, are some of the things that make this whole liaison, this partnership work so well. And there may have been some questions prompted by the PowerPoint, or if you have any other questions in reference to law enforcement and working with the school districts.
Thank you, Sergeant. Any questions or comments?
Yes, sir.
I just have a question regarding, I've been hearing a lot more through Troy Youth Assistance and other sources about the increase in heroin usage in the suburbs. And we've been concerned about, with our one-to-one initiative, we've got kids out there with iPads in their backpacks and things like that. And I just wondered, what have you seen in terms of increased instances in Troy that are related to heroin addiction? And is that something that we need to be, really conscious of, particularly in our middle and high schools?
That's a great question, Mr. Schmidt. And I've noticed probably we had like an uptick about 8 years ago, a little more heroin use in the metro suburban areas. I have not noticed a great increase in Troy itself.
Okay.
I know you've seen more in the papers, but I'm not seeing it. And I know if I talk to Troy Community Coalition, they'll probably say some of the same things.
Okay.
We haven't seen it hit as hard within the school district per se.
Okay.
There's some people here that are involved with the coalition. From a coalition standpoint, we are aware, we did a town hall on the heroin issue. There's been an increase in prescription drugs that emulate the same effects as heroin, which is more the concern that we're starting to see now, prescription drugs. The heroin uptick was caused in the fact that it looked like heroin became more potent. So we were seeing overdoses that we hadn't seen in the past because the potency had changed. And they weren't, the users weren't aware of that, and they were overdosing. Fortunately, there's been changes in the medical capability where our Reliance Ambulance Company has Narcan that they carry with them, that they're able to help those people that overdose. So we were aware of that issue. We are taking care of it. I shouldn't say take care. We are aware of it. We're doing what we can to take care of it in partnership with the coalition.
But it hasn't been a huge uptick
No.
within our city limits at least now, okay.
But it's something we'll always monitor. On top of. An example would be the Cloud9. Cloud9 isn't technically illegal because of the molecular structure of it. We're aware of it. We had a call from a citizen about the BP station in Crooks and McBeaver possibly advertising it. We went into it and investigated, found out that wasn't accurate. And if they did have it, at least they advertised and they took it down. So we try to stay on the pulse of what's going on. The Troy Community Coalition is a big part of doing that and helping us along those lines. But I think you had a second part of the questions about the iPads and so forth. Another thing we have to stay on top of. And, my daughter is in 6th grade. She just got a new iPad. We had no problems. However, we were fortunate. It's something that I think, there's a dual responsibility, that of the individual and also the school district, to do everything they can to safeguard the iPads, especially with passwords. And that's important, because anytime you have that number of technological devices out there, there's going to be a percentage that may get lost or stolen. We understand that. What you want to do is protect yourself. So if it does happen, then we have the apparatus in place to replace and not lose damage or lose confidential information.
I know we have the ability to brick them remotely if they're stolen. I'm more concerned about the actual theft and whether we're putting, like after it's stolen, we can brick it. And I just worry about, I don't want our kids to be afraid that, they're being preyed upon on the way home from school or something.
We haven't seen that.
Yeah.
And if I will say this, if we do see it, we'll aggressively pursue and prevent, because it's more than just investigating the fact. Another thing that makes our department, our city great, is that we try to prepare before crime prevention. That's if we see something like that occur, then we'll take steps to work with the school district and safe ed security to kind of prevent those kind of events.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
Councilman Pettit?
Actually, my question related to Cloud Nine, because that was on the national news this weekend, actually, Fraser Police in Macomb County, there was, they had problems with that in their convenience stores and gas stations, and I'm just curious if we had seen it anywhere in Oakland County.
That was, well, I'm not sure Oakland County, I just talk about Troy, and then we did have a call last week reference, which is a great thing about Troy County. You know, they felt citizens will call us and let us know when they see something, because they don't want it in the city. And we encourage, and what we do try to do is encourage business people to be good partners in the community with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor?
Councilman Holder? Councilwoman Holder?
I just wanted to mention, there's so much the police department can cover about what they do for the schools. An insight that I gained last year in the Police Citizens Academy was the vigilant, very thorough review of the buildings from a tactical standpoint, and the fact that the police department proactively is so prepared in terms of understanding the layouts of the buildings. Heaven forbid. But it was very impressive, and several people in the room that had children in the schools took a deep breath of relief, and maybe you already are all aware of that, but the proactive on crime, day-to-day crime with drugs, and just the bigger picture is just another one of those things that makes this the city where you want to be.
For sure. C4 is Troy Talk, and you know, you're in for a treat tonight. One thing I noticed is this city council has learned since we hired Brian Kishnick as the center manager that he always has fantastic PowerPoints. He always has. Say it. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Who said something?
Yeah. And he always has a surprise at the end, so I'm sure there's a surprise somewhere at the end of this, but I saw a little bit of this today. You're in for a treat today, so I'm going to turn this over to City Manager Brian Kishnick.
Mayor and both boards, thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity. If you remember, about 2 years ago when we started talking about this forum, it was a great idea to come together and build relationships and get to know each other. And what we did the first time, when Dr. Fowler, we were at your shop, you gave a presentation on the school district and a lot of the things that were going on. And so what we said when we came back to our shop this time, we would do the same thing, and then keep that going as we alternate locations and understand what each other's doing, understand the similarities that we're facing, but also understand the success that the Troy community has. And Dr. Maheski said that they educate children better than anyone, and I can tell you, my kids have been in other school districts. There's only one better educator than the Troy School District, and that's my wife, who's educated all the time. And I just, you know, that goes without saying, but they educate kids better. I can attest, and I could talk my whole presentation about Bolin and Schroeder, and I wish I could, but I can tell you, I told Dr. Maheski this, what makes them so many things make them unique. But one of the things is, when I went to my son's open house at Bolin, what you learn real quickly is if your son or daughter is getting behind, like in math, for example, which could happen easily for my son.
Hypothetically.
They don't just go and you keep going, keep the ball rolling. They say, we're going to stop, we're going to back up, and we're going to make sure you get it. Because if you don't have it, the foundation, you're not going to get it. And you know, I can go on and on. I just think I know everybody says it's the best community, it's the best school district, but it is, and you all live it every day. But you also are part of the success, and which makes it so great. Which is why I'm up here, and the mayor talks about my presentation, which I haven't done any of this. I just storyboarded for these guys, and Marcus and Andrew and Maggie and Saharis, who are all part of this. who they really do the work, and I always give them the credit. Usually not up front, sometimes at the end, in various ways. But anyway, this really, they get all the credit. But this is our story about Troy and how a year ago we said we wanted to start with why. And why do we know what we do, we know how we do it, but why do we do what we do? And what do we want to convey? And so our why statement became this. And see how this relates to what you do in the school district. We believe a strong community embraces diversity, promotes innovation, and encourages collaboration. That's some of the things we're doing tonight. We strive to lead by example within the region, and you all certainly do this. And why do we do this? We do this because we want everyone to choose Troy as their community for life. We believe in doing government the best. That's our why statement. That's what we live by. That's what's on everything that we do in the city of Troy going forward. That's why we do what we do. And we firmly believe in that. And what happens? Troy High School, number 3 high school in Michigan by U.S. News and World Report. CQ Press, 2014, safest city in Michigan. You hear that all the time. And that's a police department metric, but it's also a everybody metric. That's everybody chipping in, like Sergeant Bryan just talked about. And then in 2012, Money Magazine, one of the best places to live. And then just recently, you may have seen 24/7 Wall Street, 2014. Look at these communities we're up against. Number 1 in Michigan, number 7 in the United States places to live. That's where you chose to be involved in the community in a very meaningful, tangible, sustainable way. That's what Troy is. And then, if you didn't hear, vote for the best. We do have one of the best aquatic center. And Kelly Molinar, who runs our aquatic center, and we promoted her. She's a Troy girl, and we're so happy to have her on our staff. She does great things, and she's not only she's a part of this, making it one of the voted the best in Metro Detroit, but it also she's financially working the aquatic center so that it doesn't lose money. And you know, in an aquatic center in Michigan, it's not the best choice for making money. Not to mention Tom Darling's here, our financial services director. They've been with all these plaques on the wall back here. Outstanding CAFR, outstanding PAFR, and budget presentation award. I used to do reviews for these, and this is not a small thing. And he's had this for how long? I don't even know how long. 15 years. Pardon me? 15 years. 15 years. They're just getting started here in Troy to have all this. That just, people talk about transparency, but we talk about how do you communicate something that is pretty boring stuff to some people. Tom loves it, I love it, and I hope everyone else does. So program initiatives, what are some of the things we're doing program-wise? We're creating an environment for investment in Troy. This is Mark Miller and his staff started this a couple of years ago, let's say 2 years, Mark, 4 years actually now. And we really believe in creating an environment for investment in Troy. And what do you do to do that? And some of the things we'll talk about in a second, but move across Troy, the Big Beaver Road Pedestrian Symposium, which is going on tomorrow and Wednesday. We really want to talk to people, business owners, professionals. We have a consultant from Chicago to talk about how can we move pedestrians across Big Beaver, north, south, east, west. It really is. To create an environment for investment, we need vibrancy, we need activity. And it's 50,000 cars a day, might be difficult. But let's at least talk about it and see what best practices are out there. 15 for 15, next year is the City of Troy's 60th anniversary. And this is 15, which is 15 businesses in 2015 on Maple Road, which is 15 mile. So they're doing these little short snippets highlighting businesses, starting with MJR in the Maple, Livernois. Major reinvestment of the old Kmart building that we think will revitalize the Maple Road corridor. We started a professional development program, which could incorporate the schools, by the way. In fact, I like to talk about, what was his name, Martin? What was his first name? Brian Martin, who I hired to be an intern this summer as part of this is our internship program, but it's called Next Professional Development Program, because these are the leaders of tomorrow. That's what you all are in that business. So I got my start by doing an internship. We just called the Next Professional Development Program for high school and college age students who want to work with us, not just summer, but throughout the year, to add value to our employment and our product. Interaction Troy is Everyone Counts. This is our interaction program or community service where we put together our team, we're training them, and then we're going to test them to make sure that our interaction with everyone is a 10. And from that, one of the first things we did is create the City of Troy's top 5 target habits for interaction. And they are to be friendly and fair, be timely. That means return messages, right? Return them within 24 hours. And then use and share all communication resources, be open, confident, and trustworthy. And be okay with saying, this is my favorite, be okay with saying I don't know. It's nothing worse than someone answering a question where they don't know the answer to. Vision Collision, a powerful exchange of ideas. This is Marcus's idea, putting together sort of a share information with Rochester Hills, where we went there for a half a day and learned about what they're doing, and they're coming here in November. Then our master plan. Mark is also involved in this, and we've identified with our update of our master plan 5 areas that they were looking at: Big Beaver, again the Maple Road corridor, Rochester Road, and then North Troy, where we've had some vacancies in the community. So staff initiatives. We have our Troy Stars, which is a citywide staff picnic that we just had last week. This is Welcome to the Troy OK. It was a farm theme. It's pretty fun. The Lunch and Learn series, which is 12 months in the making, so for staff. I put together and encourage cross-departmental success teams so that departments get out of their silos and they come together cross-departmentally. And one of the things was that's come out of that, besides our retreat with the City Council, is a performance evaluation overhaul that's ongoing right now, which people are excited about. Leadership Enrichment, Be a Doer Challenge. This is something Leadership Enrichment is my staff meeting. There's about 20 to 25 people in the room, and I had a Be a Doer Challenge, and one of the things was to come up with in groups of 2, to come up with a new slogan, which is You Are Troy, or Your Troy. This is not it, by the way. This is just one example. And a logo, which this embodies Troy. So this is our Be a Doer Challenge. This isn't it, but this is just to whet everyone's appetite. This is one of the submissions, and you'll see a few more in a second. But that's to get staff involved and to actually be a doer, not just be a manager. Those days are over. It's post-2008. We have to be a doer. Partnerships, how are we working together? And this is really what we're about, another reason why we're here tonight. We work together with all components. And the first one that you may not be as happy with right now is TroyRoadsRock.com. We thought this was a great name when we came out with the program, which is a partnership with the Road Commission of Oakland County, as well as the state of Michigan, Senator Papa George and Representative Howrlack, who have been very instrumental in bringing funds back into the district. This city council appropriated $5 million, and we've stretched that to about $12 million in road improvements, which is why it wasn't as fun a summer, and it's really not a fun fall. But it's going to get better. I also go out and visit different communities, and these are just a few of them. Not as retention visits so much, just as getting to know you and understanding the culture in Troy and what some of the contacts are out there with their local government, what their image is, and how I can make that a more positive experience. One Stop Ready, best practices. This is Oakland County. This is what some of our city council is going through, as well as our planning commission members and staff. And one of the things that was already done through creating an environment for investment was this: we give 5 days for residential permits. It has to be done in 5 days, fast, fair, and predictable. So it's either yes or no or why, and 10 days for commercial. So we put standards on there so they're not, it's not just outstanding. Pure Michigan, this is a smart zone with Automation Alley. The city council just approved this. This is a 15-year extension for Automation Alley to keep them in Troy, and create a partnership with Port Huron across the 69 corridor. It's a big deal for economic development in southeast Michigan and Oakland County, right here with the home of Automation Alley in Troy, and keeping them and their funding for another 15 years. Planning ahead, so we always look, what are some of the things we need to think about and look at in the future? We really think we need to connect to businesses even more, and connect businesses to businesses. We think we need to increase the use of data through maybe surveys. We haven't done any surveying in a little bit of time to understand what the feeling is, and I know school districts are good at that. And so working with the maybe Walsh College and understanding where the feeling is out in the community and take the pulse, and also serve as the benchmark so we know where we're launching from. Communicating consistent brand identity. These are just a few of the other logos that you haven't seen and have not been shown yet and are still on the drawing board. Nothing is final. This is Troy Ambition Meets Tradition. This is Troy here with the big buildings coming out of it, City of Troy. I forget what this is called, old school. Retro, and old school. And this is Troy, Michigan. It's all here, kind of the I-75 corridor as a line. Just kind of fun stuff, but we need to get our brand, and we need to figure out what it is and then communicate it consistently. And then improve public-facing technology. One of the things that we did this past year, our IT and our DPW staff worked together to show people on the internet, and it's a mobile app as well, where the snowplows had been based on color, so that you knew, and then when they were coming to you, what phase you were. And it was really well received. It's won awards already, and so we can come up with some more mobile apps that people could use. That's really where we need to be going. And then flipping City Hall. This is always a fun one. One-stop ready and one-stop shop, whatever you want to call it. But when you come into the City Hall downstairs, you really don't know where to go. And it's a sign with arrows that go this way, that way, this way, that way. And if you ever stood down there during the day for any length of time, you'd understand that the problem is pretty apparent. You don't have to study it. So it might be a doer challenge. This is one of the departments. I put them in groups of 4 or 5, teams of 4 or 5, and this is one that I personally like the best. You come in the east entrance, go to the clerk. The clerk would be right there where the garden atrium is, and all the permitting would be over here, assessing and treasure over here, with community fairs in the back with a training room, and there's more to it. But this, you can see, this is pen and pencil and markers that are just marking stuff up. It's got a lot more conversation to go. And then, last but not least, this is a firework. The firework is the Transit Center grand opening, which is now scheduled for October 14th, 2014. And it's a really good day for that. But this is where we are, moving forward together. And that's what we want to do. We want to move forward, and we want to do it together, because that's really what we believe.
Must have been before construction on the roads, you moved pretty fast.
Thank you, Brian. As usual, great job, good presentation. I think you can understand now why most of us chose to hire Brian for our city manager. And I know when you did your search for doctor, and I look at this cup, and I read one Troy, I'm hearing the same thing on both sides of the table here, is really what I've heard tonight. And I have to tell you, Doctor, I've talked to a handful of people, and my next door neighbor's a teacher, and you have brought an energy to the schools, and the openness and the one Troy, and it's the message that's already gotten out there. So congratulations to you on what you've brought, and we're never amazed by the PowerPoints that we do. They're tremendous. Any questions for the city manager or staff in the school district? Any comments? Our next, Councilman Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a great start. Our second meeting, Dr. Macheski, we're really thrilled to have you. And of course, Brian, you got two bundles of energy here, and this is a great start. But I'd like us to continue to focus on what we can do together. You know, I'm sure the things the city does that we can do better that would help the schools and vice versa. I know in the past we had some opportunities to do that, and we were doing that, and for some reason it sort of fell apart. But I think this group and maybe the two of you, Dr. Macheski and Brian Kishnick, could meet without big groups and talk about what we could do, or have your staffs do it. But I think there's probably still more opportunities for us to work together to help each other, you know, in the city. And because we are one city, we're one community, and well, let's just look for opportunities to work together to improve and maybe do some cost savings things and use our synergies. But I think that's our challenge, this group. We're doing a lot of things right, but what can we do together as city council and school board, or as administrations, to actually make more improvements in the city, working cooperatively together? This is a great start, man. I'm so glad to be a part
I
of
always
this.
think it's great that we meet face to face. You
Yes.
know, put a face with a name and be able to talk. Any other, C5 is an agenda item to talk about anything other than what's been talked about tonight. Anybody have anything that they want to bring forward to me?
Mayor, one question relating to sidewalks has probably come up in the past, but
I was gonna bring
that's
that
a
one.
shared issue, which is,
Yes.
you know, we were talking about sidewalks on Big Beaver, and I'm more concerned about connectivity across our neighborhoods and making Troy a more walker-friendly city for our kids and for adults too. And I just wondered, has there been any conversation on the city side about connecting? Just anywhere I've lived in the city, you always hit dead ends. You know, when you're trying to stay off the roads and you're biking or walking, you hit these points where you go, why doesn't this connect over there? And I didn't know if there's been any plans or, you know, sketches of what it would take, or any plans you want to talk about.
I can talk a little bit about that, and then I can defer to Mr. Kishnick. But prior to 2009, the city was working towards putting a fund together. We recognized that we couldn't do it all in 1 year, so we were taking money each year, putting it aside until we had enough money to do the trails and roads. And anytime we ever do a survey with the citizens of Troy, generally the number one comment is walkability, sidewalks, bike paths. So that was recognized back in 2005 or 6 when we started to put that together. And unfortunately, in 2009, we had to use that money to survive. So we took the money out of that fund and used it to survive. But we are back strong. We are back, and if you look at, in your agenda packet, if you look at the top 11 strategies, number 8 is update and identify funding for pathways and trails plan. And I know that City Manager Kishnick pays a great deal of attention to these 11 strategies, and he works on them daily. And I know it's important to the community, it's important to this council, and we have to find a way to get the funding back. It's an expensive project, but we need to get it back. It's important to us here. City Manager Kishnick, did you want
Well,
to?
I mean, Mayor, you said almost everything that I would have thought of, but I mean, it's on our list of strategies. We've begun the capital improvement process, which is where the money was before, to begin to put money back in that. But quite frankly, we've chose to put money into roads right now.
Right.
Because of the winter that we had. But
We have to, yeah.
we had to, but it's every time we meet to talk internally, capital improvement, it's top 3, and it's in our 11, it's in our strategies also. So it's something that's mindful in the planning department of Mark's area.
So you have a plan. There actually is a,
There is a plan. It needs to probably be tweaked and updated a little bit, but there was a plan put together back 2004 or 5, somewhere in there, that is there. And it's viable, it's,
yeah, the roads haven't changed, so, yeah.
the roads haven't changed.
Sidewalks are
Sidewalks are still, you know, we're pretty built out here. And, but just to piggyback on that for a minute, one of the issues that I wanted to talk a little bit about tonight is that we're gonna be talking about sidewalks in a different context this winter, about sidewalks that get kids to school. And the need to make sure that we clear our sidewalks of snow and ice, so that the kids that walk to school can walk to school without having to walk in the street or slip and fall. So it is on our radar to talk about how we are going to get back. Once again, that was one of the things that when we had to cut money, you know, you cut money in those areas, and now we need to revisit that. We need to revisit making sure that the sidewalks are clear in the routes that the kids walk to school. So we're hoping that possibly we could partner with the schools and at least talk about this. And it might be, Councilman Fleming, you know, mentioned meeting between Mr. Kishnick and Dr. Majewski, that maybe they could talk a little bit, and we can identify some of those streets that are important to the schools. Because I think as a group, we've talked that we want to revisit that and look at cleaning those streets again, or those sidewalks. So that's something that I wanted to mention this evening. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, just off the top of my head, is that it's really great that we have a school liaison officer back in the schools, but might not be this year or next year or whatever, but I think we need to expand that again. We need to have more than one, because I think she'll tell you candidly that she's pretty busy. And I think we need to look at expanding that from a personal standpoint. Councilwoman Hillary, did you have?
You know what, I was just thinking, there's so much going on. We didn't even talk about the master planning process, that we've hit the 5-year, it's required by law that we look at our master plan again. And there had been a major, all right, now this is my test if I've caught up with everything properly. The master plan went through a major refresh, if I can speak in layman's terms. And it's hit that 5-year mark, and it still needs to be tweaked, and there's opportunities to look at it. Our planning commission has been just stellar, working through issues and identifying places for improvement. They've been really, really outstanding. We are blessed with a solid planning commission. And that's an opportunity when we have the public forums where we can be coming together again. You know, we talked about these sidewalks. There may be something else that, with the emails you get that are school-specific, where we might miss an opportunity, you would see it as you review that plan. So I know that you have plenty on your agendas, we do too, but those are the synergies. Sure. And I would certainly, maybe we can make it a point to email dates to the school board as well. And it may be administration that comes and looks at that. But that's a wonderful opportunity for us to just keep, just like you're talking about, just keep finessing and moving forward. How do we make it better? It's outstanding. How do we continuously improve it? And it's through the dialogue and the collaboration. So, just popped in my head.
Any other points? At this point, we need to open it up to public comment, but I don't see anyone here this evening for public comment. Once again, I think it's a great meeting. It's great to get together with the school board and the school administration. And thanks for coming tonight, and we're going to do this again next year.
Thanks for hosting.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you.